Good morning again, YouTube, to all my 3 subscribers and anyone who might be using the SEO powers to find videos about WROL SHTF, the end of the world we know it, EMPs, North Korea, riots, power outages, floods, earthquakes, tornadoes. This is LA Prepper here, planning for the end of the world, or at least the end of things the way that they used to be, which isn't the end of the world so much. It's just a shift. It's a shift in the way that we live. Instead of going to the store, you go to your cabinet. Instead of calling the police, you call your local neighborhood posse, I suppose. Today, we are going to talk about logistics. Now, when I say logistics, I'm talking more about moving items. Logistics kind of classically means, organization and planning, and logistics can cover a little bit more than just moving stuff, but I'm going to refer to it as moving your items, moving with your items. Prepping is great, but 10,000 rounds only helps you if you can carry 10,000 rounds with you. If that's 22 caliber, you can probably carry 10,000 rounds. If that's 9mm, I hope you have something to carry that, because I should have figured out how much that costs. But so logistics. How are you gonna move all your stuff? Have you thought about this? My plan is to bug in initially. If I had to bug out, you kind of have 2 options. Early, medium, and late. Early would be before stuff happens. Now, unless you know for sure when something's gonna happen, that kind of means moving out to the country, or living in the woods before shit hits the fan. I'm in school right now. I have an apartment. I have kind of life going on here. It's not really convenient for me to move out to the country at this point, although I have definitely thought about it after I graduate. I'm not going to lie. Um, but for now, I'm kind of staying in place. But back to the topic, logistics. We have a big spectrum from bugging in on the one hand to bugging out, taking your backpack, and kind of somewhere in the middle, you have your car bug out. And those are all relatively, I won't say they're easy to plan, but they lend themselves to sort of a more standard way of thinking. Let me elaborate. You bug in, everything's at your house. You're not too worried about moving stuff. Um, if shit hits the fan, you'll kind of go to your plan B, which is maybe put everything in the car. Okay, what do you take in the car? Well, you probably planned on what you want to take in the car. You can probably fit a lot of stuff in your car. Unless you have a big family and a small car, then I guess it would be a little bit rough. But you're going to put everything in duffel bags. You're going to pack as much food and water and gas as you can in the car. Get your maps and all your stuff, and off you go. Okay, not too much thought to that. Of course, the sort of more low key, excuse me, option is to bug out on foot or on bicycle, something of that nature. You're taking a backpack, a duffel bag or two. So there you have, your clear cut, stay at home, bug in, bug out in the car, or bug out on the bicycle. Now, just to kind of give my quick thoughts on each one of those, bugging out at home, obviously you should always be ready to, or bugging in at home, you should always kind of be thinking, if you had to get up and go, would you be able to, transport some decent amount of food safety covering, survival items. You're going to want to stay organized. Just because you're staying in your home doesn't mean you want to have stuff spread out all over the place, unorganized. Um, you know, you never know when you're going to need something. So even though you might not think you have to worry about logistics if you're planning on staying at your place, you never know when your place is going to get, I guess, overrun, for lack of a better word. No matter how much ammo you have, no matter how strong your posse is, there is strength in numbers. So even if there's 20 of you, if there's a mob of 1,000 people coming, it's either defend yourself against 1,000 people or get out of your house. I don't know if you want to start a war against a mob of 1,000 people. That's a whole nother video, but the point is, you might need to leave at some point. So don't, ignore logistics if you're planning 100%, even if you're planning 100% on staying no matter what. Don't ignore it. Bugging out the car. Oh man, I just feel like there's so many people that are going to jump in their car, and I'm in Los Angeles, so literally there are millions and millions of people, about 10 million people. A lot of them have cars. A lot of people in Los Angeles have cars. So, um, do you think you're going to find a road that's not full of people? Let's talk about one option here. You throw everything in your car, get out a little bit early. You drive an hour out of town. The power's out, by the way, so you're not checking Google Maps for traffic updates. You get an hour out of town, you hit bumper to bumper traffic. Not only do you hit bumper to bumper traffic, you're gridlocked. There are accidents up ahead. There are people who are run out of gas. There are people who are fighting for other people's gas. You can't get off the road. And let's say, presumably, this is not a place where you can off-road it. Maybe you're saying, well, I have a Jeep. I'll just drive over here and drive over this hill and I'll be fine. That might work sometimes. Number one, most freeways, the way that they're set up with guardrails, you can't physically exit the freeway. A lot of freeways are like that. Number two, you're not going to be the first one to think of that. So whichever way you're going, you could run into a bunch of 4x4 traffic or a bunch of off-road traffic. It's not unheard of. And a lot of the off-road trails that you're going to find are 1 or 2 lanes. What if a bunch of ranchers have decided that that's their road and they're not going to let anyone pass? At least not unless they pay. So if your backup plan to traffic is, I'm going to take another road, keep in mind that only works for so long. Point I'm trying to make is, even if you're bugging out in the car, if for some reason you can't take your car somewhere, what are you going to do? Are you going to carry 20 duffel bags? Do you know how heavy food and water and gas are? Heavy, very heavy. Put 2 gallons of water in your backpack, walk around the block, and tell me you're going to carry a gallon a day for the rest of your life with you. Obviously no one carries that much water with them, but the point I'm trying to make is you can't plan on, I'm doing this no matter what, I'm doing that. You have to have some flexibility. So I would love to know, if you're planning on bugging out in your car, what are you going to do when you can't use your car? Are you going to hoof it? Are you going to leave half your stuff? You're not going to want to leave all the stuff you prepped for. You're going to have hundreds, if not thousands of dollars of preps with you in your car. If you've prepped for a year or more, I have $1,000 of preps. Actually, I probably don't. But if you've prepped for a couple years, between survival stuff and camping stuff and outdoor stuff and rifles, security, clothes, and all that, plus the car itself, maybe a couple bicycles, who knows? You're not going to want to leave your stuff. So how are you going to take it with you? So I think there's this really interesting kind of in-between logistic area. I don't know. I'm going to invent a term for it. Sort of like human caravan, or the human logistics, human powered logistics, or something like that. What a bicycle with a trailer or a wheelbarrow, most people, if I said buy a wheelbarrow for your preps, most people would say, well, what am I going to use a wheelbarrow for? Am I going to be mixing concrete? Am I going to be doing yard work? But if you've ever used a wheelbarrow, you know what I'm talking about. Try to carry 100 pounds of gravel on your back, then try to carry 100 pounds of gravel in a wheelbarrow. It's still hard in a wheelbarrow, but it's possible. Now, honestly, if you were going to move a long distance, a wagon, even a little child's wagon, would be far superior to a wheelbarrow. Why? Because you have to hold a wheelbarrow. Balancing it over terrain, it's an incredible strain on your back. And the last thing you want to do in a shit hits the fan situation is tweak your back. I don't care how many times you go to the gym. If you screw up part of your body, you're going to be at a little bit of a disadvantage. And probably people who go to the gym a lot are going to put too much shit in the wheelbarrow anyways, and be just as likely to, sprain their ankle or something. So The point is, have some flexibility, have some different options. You're not always going to have gas. The roads aren't always going to be available. And I promise you, you are not always going to want to carry all your crap everywhere. If you think you're just going to huff it, I would highly recommend you grab your backpack, grab 2 duffel bags of your shit, walk a mile, walk 5 miles, then go home and think about, damn, that's a lot of energy. And you know what you need to do with all that energy? You need to eat a lot of calories. So even something like bringing a wheelbarrow, if you can conserve energy, that's conserving food. That is extremely valuable when the shit hits the fan. I mean, food's going to be almost worth its weight in gold eventually. That might seem like a stretch, but in desperate people will pay a lot of money, or a lot of value for food if they're starving. So I won't talk too much more about logistics in this video. I'm trying to kind of make shorter videos, but in conclusion, be flexible, be ready for whatever your plan A is. Have a plan B, C, D, E. Try to add some prepping to the in between areas. Prep for what you would do in between staying in and using your car. Prep for what happens when you use your car and maybe you got to leave your car. Prep for only carrying what you have on foot. Prep for how much you could carry with a bicycle or a wagon, or if you had a couple of friends. What if you're on the water? Have you thought about that? In my living room, I'm working on building sort of a sailboat contraption. I have a windsurfing board and 2 surfboards. Now, I'm 30 miles from the ocean, so it's not like I'm going to be transporting things large distances in the ocean. But if you live near a river or a lake, you can put a lot of gear on a little homemade raft. And I have enough materials in my house right now. I could take apart my bed frame, put together even if the power is out, I have enough juice in my drill to put together a raft, a very crappy, simple raft. But I could put together a raft, put, 500 pounds on it and float across a river, float across a reservoir. Even if I wanted to camp in the middle of a reservoir, not everyone has a boat. If there's way too many stuff going on land, maybe I'll talk about bugging out on a lake in another video. But point is, have some flexibility, have some options, and think about different ways to move different quantities of stuff. You're not always going to have a car. You're not always going to want to stay at home. And you're not always going to have the energy or the means to move large quantities of stuff. So think about your logistics, think about how you're going to move stuff, and think about it in a lot of different varieties. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.